because working on lab, you'll want lots of people to answer all your questions and stuff. So it'll be real fun. And Jeff will also formally introduce this week's assignment, which is already out. The lab and the assignment are both already out. You can start working on them. But if you want to wait until tomorrow to start working on them, he'll like actually introduce it and talk about it.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
For like the days that we come on Thursdays, like if you can make it on Thursday, will that like impact anything? Like
if you can't make it on Thursday, it just means that you have to work on the lab on your own, and you'll miss any like talk that they do about the assignment.
Okay.
So it's all stuff that you can make up on your own at home. But it's just a good opportunity to be here and have us answering all your questions and stuff like that.
What time is it?
Same time, 7 to 8:30 tomorrow. Yeah. And next week only, Monday's class is moved to Tuesday for the holiday. That doesn't work for you, let me know ASAP, but I think that'll make it better for people.
That doesn't work.
Lol.
Okay. Does Monday work for you though?
Yeah.
But Tuesday doesn't?
Yeah.
Okay, is there anyone else who Monday doesn't work for? So we have conflicting interests here. Okay.
Like they moved my important final and realized what day I have it. Like the first 2 days it was like Spanish and stuff, so like, I'm not really worried about that. But I have them for like Wednesday, so like, either Monday or Tuesday, like, I'm okay with.
So either way is okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anyone else who has a conflict on Monday or Tuesday? You just want to be celebrating.
What? What?
Okay.
I was joking.
Okay. I will contact the people who aren't in this room as well and see, and we'll let you know. Because if people have conflicts on both, then it's less obvious what to do. So we'll figure that out. Okay, so let's talk about string methods, because that is today's topic. If I can get it to work. Why does this always happen? Every time I'm like,
Cries.
next slide, next slide. Okay, so I hope you all remember Monday. It was 2 days ago. So we learned the 3 steps to using objects. Does anybody remember what they are?
Oh, sorry, say it again.
Great job.
Please repeat.
Good. Import, now I can't get forward again. There we go. Import, instantiate, and call methods. So those are the 3 steps to using objects. Hopefully you remember those things. The focus of today is going to be that third one, call methods, because import is pretty much always the same. Whatever object it is, you know how to import it. It goes at the top. And instantiating is pretty much always the same. You just create the object, and there's a rule about how you create it. But calling methods, there are lots of different methods that you can use, and there are lots of interesting things. And so the methods are where this really gets interesting, because this is when the usefulness of objects comes out. It's got all these functions that do cool stuff. So that's what today's focus is going to be. You may remember from Monday's class that these are some of the methods we learned. So word pair has get first word and get second word. Point has get x, get y to get the 2 coordinates, and then it has a distance method that you can use to get the distance to another point. Is this all familiar? And then string has char at to get the character at an index. Yeah, question?
Can you access the slide?
Oh, I can. Reload? I know, I can. I can too.
Okay. Yeah, try going back to like the whole drive folder instead. Can you help him? Okay, so char at gets the character at a particular index, right? So if you do char at 0, it gets the first letter in the string. If you do char at 1, it gets the second letter, right? And then length gets the total number of characters in the whole string. So these things should all be familiar. And today, we're basically going to learn these ones. So these are all the new methods that you don't know yet. You'll notice they're all on string, and that's because string is the most common of these objects that we've learned so far. So they're going to be super useful, and it's just most useful to know how to use strings. So that's kind of the focus of today's class. So quick refresh. This is stuff we learned on Monday. Can take a minute to look at this and figure out what gets printed. When you think you know what gets printed, give me a thumbs up. All right, Jackie, you want to volunteer what gets printed?
Like saying that it wants to count the fourth character.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know, kind of, it's either the space or the B. That's what confused me.
Yeah. Samin?
It's the B.
The B? Why?
Because you count it 0 first.
Exactly. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. So that's the B. Good. All right. So this is what we did at the very end of class on Monday, just to refresh this. So this was where you printed the first character and the last character in a string. So this prints out the first character, caret 0. And then the way you got the last index, this is what Grace presented at the end, was you take the length minus 1. Is this all familiar? Were there any questions about this before we move on? Cool. So let's have you try this out. Open up Cloud9, and the solution for this is in the solutions, or you can use your solution. So you can run update provided code to get the solution for this code, or you can use your solution. And your task is to modify this to print the string's second character and its second to last character, rather than the first and the last. I found that file. Start looking at string trade-off. Class example. You can either use your solution, or in the solutions folder, we also provide a solution. Either one. Okay. Does anybody have the solution yet? So someone tell me, give me a line number that I need to modify here. 6. How should I modify it, Cynthia? Okay. And someone else for the next modification?
I'm not sure, but would it be line 7?
Exactly. Yep. Sweet. Did you get the one before? Good job. All right. So now this will print out the second and the second to last. So, whoop. All right. So now if I run it with bears, I get that the second character is E and the second to last character is R. And I should also update the words there so it doesn't say first and last, but you guys get the point. Any questions about this? Okay. Does this make sense to everyone? Is there anyone who didn't get it, who has questions about it? Moving on. So let's talk about looping over strings. But if you want to do something over each character in a string, you would need to loop. So here's an example. Suppose we want to write a program that takes a string as input and prints every index where the letter A occurs. So we want to search for the letter A in the string. So for example, ABCA, it would output 0, 1, 2, that's wrong. Does anybody see what's wrong about that?
3.
Should be 0, 3. Bear, it's also wrong. I'm really bad at this.
Julie.
I wrote these. And Alabama, it is 0, 2, 4, and 6. Right? So what if the word were battle? What does it print? And what if the word is Yesenia? You're good at this.
I have to.
6. Yeah, 6. Because there's 7 total
7.
letters, and that's the last one. Okay, so you guys get the point. So here's the algorithm that I wrote for this. We're going to get the string from the input, loop over each index in the string, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and check if the character at that index is A. If it's A, we print the current index and then print a space. Make sense? Do you guys want me to walk through this, or okay? So for example, if the word is banana, what my code is going to do is first it's going to get the string from the input. So I'll have like a string called S, and it'll be the input. And then what it's going to do is it's going to loop over each index, and it's going to check, is this equal to A? Nope. And then it'll go on to the next one. Is this equal to A? Yes. And it'll write 1. And then is this equal to A? And then it'll go over each of them. So in each of these cases, it's keeping track of the index. And when it gets to an A, it writes that index plus a space. So that's what it's going to do conceptually. So let's look at the code.
So for all of them that are not A, there'll be a space.
No, so it'll only print a space if it prints the current index. So it checks, and if it is an A, it'll print the index and a space. And if it's not an A, it'll just go back and keep looping. So that's my algorithm. And here's my code. So let's walk through it. So in line 4, that is where it would be nice to have a left at the same time. So that's where we get the string from the input, right? Then we loop over each index. So that's what our for loop does. So it starts with the index at 0. It goes until we get to the end of the word. So notice I have index is less than word.length, and we want it to be less than, not less than or equal. Can someone tell me why?
Because you count starting with 0. I'm guessing so you just have to like go one below.
Exactly. Yeah, because since we start counting at 0, the last index is length minus 1. So we don't actually want to go up to being equal to length. We want to stop before we get there. And then we increase the index each time. So do you guys remember for loops? Is this familiar looking? All right. And then we check. We get the character at that index. And if it's an A, we print the index and we print a space. And otherwise, we just go back up to the start. Are there any questions about how this code works? Do you want me to walk through an example on the code? Yeah. So in line 4, so let's suppose that our R0 is banana again. Oops. I'll make it bigger on the next line. So line 4, it takes word and it sets its value to be banana because it grabs R0. Good so far? And then on line 7, we make index equal to 0. And then we have this word dot length. Which in this case is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters. And then, so we're gonna loop and we start at 0. We check is it less than 6, it is. And so then we enter the loop. So this is line 9. And we do word.char at index, which is 0. So in this case, that's B. So now we have B, and we check if B is equal to A. Remember that a single equal means assignment, so we use double equal for comparison. So we check, are they equal? And the answer is no. And so it doesn't enter the if block, and then it loops back up to the top of the loop. Are we good so far? So now we're back at the top of the loop, and we do index plus plus. So now index is equal to 1. And so now that index is equal to 1, we again go to line 9, and we say word.char at index. So word.char at 1, and that gets us A, because we have 0, 1. We check if A is equal to A, and the answer is yes. So we enter the if block because it was yes. So now I'm on line 11, and we print out index. Index is, sorry, we're right here, is 1. I'm going to use green for things that I print out. So I print out 1. Actually, I should probably just do it in a separate spot. So this is my console where I'm printing. I print a 1 and space. I'm just using that to indicate space because you can't see space. So here I print 1 because that's index, and then in line 13, I print the space. Does that make sense? So So then it's gonna keep going. So then index will go to 2. You'll do the same thing and you'll compare N to A, you'll get no, and you'll keep going. It goes to 3, you compare, and then you print 3 in the space. And then it keeps going until index is less than word.length. Word.length is 6. So when index is 5, we'll do it. This is index 5, so it'll print 5 space. And then when it gets to 6, it'll say nope and exit the program. Good. So that's how you loop over strings. You use the indices. And now it's your turn to try it out. Write a program that takes a string as input and counts the number of times the letter A occurs. So I think this is straightforward. So if it's like ABCA, A appears twice. If it's bear, A appears once. Alabama, it appears 4 times. If it were like box, it would be 0, right? You can work in groups on this. And this is kind of complex. So like I did with the last problem, first write your algorithm before you write your code. So first come up with an algorithm. And then in about 4 minutes, I'll have someone share their algorithm. And then we'll work on it.
Show us. Can you show us the other page?
The algorithm?
Yeah, that one. Thank you.
Here's an example algorithm.
Oh. I'll join later. I'm an island. No, I'm an island. I'll join them. Can you do the code?
The code.
It's in your workspace
Is
for
it?
Find A.
Yeah.
Find A. Is it
Look
in
in
example?
Solutions.
Solutions.
Example
Okay.
Solutions.
Find A. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. First, we're writing the algorithm.
Oh, yeah.
So I noticed that in your thingy, it didn't have an if the else part. So does that mean it's just automatically if this doesn't if this is not true, it'll just automatically loop?
It'll just move.
So the else.
So
is
not
the
having
loop.
an else
Well,
means just instead of doing something when it's false, it just does nothing when it's false.
Okay.
So it does nothing, but then immediately it gets to this next
The
closing
end.
brace.
And then
And as soon as you get to that closing brace, you go back
Okay.
to the top of the loop.
Okay, cool.
yeah, so no else block just means keep going on with the code.
You had to remind yourself.
Yeah. I think we
Oh.
He's saying his vision is really good. He can like read people's screens from afar. I was like, I can't lean over your shoulders because I would literally have to like get up here.
What's up?
It's really bad. And I don't want to like lean up in everybody's face and be like, hey, what you doing? So. Every teacher does that.
Yeah. Kind of intimidating.
Yeah. I would hover over your shoulder if I could do it from a distance. But
Oh.
yeah.
Uh-huh. You need to know how many A's are in word, right? So if, let's say, if index not 0, where is it A? You're like, imagine like take your thing. Then you go over the word. And then it's another way. Just go.
All right, let's talk about your algorithms.
Wait, or no.
Not yet.
B or B.
Oh, actually, I'll do it on mine. I want to open Cloud9. Let's just have you. No, I already have it open.
All right. Well, you already made me stop presenting.
Sorry. I wanted to. Wait. No, don't do that. Stay.
Stay.
What do you
Leave.
want?
Where the Colin though?
He can't
would've
make it
been
today.
my
His
group.
bike broke down all the way here.
Oh damn! Oh my god! Poor Colin.
What do you want?
I just want you to leave that up for comparison. All right,
His
let's
motorized
talk
bike.
about your algorithm for count A. Does anybody want to volunteer what step 1 of your algorithm for count A is? Grace.
String, and then I put my name of it as input.
Wait, I just want your algorithm in English.
Oh. Okay. I have to think
Like
about that
this.
as I'm saying it. Okay. So I got a string from the input,
Yeah.
and then I also made another variable, and
Okay.
I called it count,
Yeah.
and it started at 0, and that's gonna be the number of A's. Oh, I should write count A. Okay. Anyways, then I made a loop. That was basically the same as yours, and in it I put that. Should I like describe it in a room? Okay, but yeah, and then I made an if statement that said like, if the character at the index is A, then I'm going to count plus plus. So that the count number that started at 0, the one that counts for A, will plus 1. And then like, and then I ended that one. So that every time it loops, if there's another A, it'll count plus plus.
Good.
And that's all.
That's it.
And then I did like a system print thing, but.
Okay. So that is after you're done looping.
Mhm.
Did anybody have an algorithm that was different from this? Oh, yeah. Did anyone have an algorithm that looked a lot like this? Yeah? Okay, are there any questions about the algorithm? Okay, go ahead and, yeah.
Relation by increase count by one, like move forward to one.
Yeah, so count would go up each time in there. So it starts at 0, then it would go to 1, and then to 2, and then to 3. Do you have a question?
Were we supposed to like write it?
Okay. Okay, let me know if you figure out how to word your question. Okay, then go ahead and write the code for this.
Are we supposed to like write out an algorithm?
So
Okay, whoops.
if you are able to just write all the code off the top of your head, then it's okay. You don't have to know the algorithm. Primarily, it's an exercise right now for you to get used to doing this, because once you get to harder stuff,
Yeah.
you'll have to plan it out before you write it.
Okay.
And having practice means it doesn't feel like you just jumped off a cliff when you get to that point.
True,
Yeah,
true.
because you don't want to learn to write algorithms at the same time that you learn to do really hard problems.
Okay.
Let's see if I can do this again. I'm just gonna pick this up and carry it over.
Nope, that's fine.
They look like they work internet.
Oh,
No, I'm not.
Integrates with
I was trying to
that
make
makes
this so that we could keep it. I'm trying to look ahead.
Have you looked at that yet, or did you just forward it to me? What's this again? That?
Yes. What, your Chrome doesn't auto-complete it for you?
No.
Did it work?
That's why I sent it to you, because I can't log into
Oh.
accounts. Well, it's hard.
It worked. Okay.
Jeez. I'm working on it.
Not complete. 1, 2, 3.
It's just information. Also informational. I'm skimming this. I think that's it.
That's good.
That's good. That's at least as much as we needed to be.
That's good.
Yeah. Now we can look at it.
But we have a system that online inside the it's because you only can really want to live 7 words true.
So, so having the print inside the statement will take it right now. It's also inside the page, right? So that means that we can increase.
Actually, that's why. Yeah. Well, thank you. Something weird happened. So in the input box, when the L, the A, the first letter of the A is capitalized.
That's a good discovery, and it doesn't matter which letter, it doesn't count capital A at all.
Oh.
And so the reason for that is that Java doesn't actually speak English, it just pretends to. And so lowercase a and uppercase a are different characters.
They're not
True.
letters, they're
Right?
symbols.
Yeah, so they're actually different symbols.
Imagine-
So it doesn't know that they have the same meaning. They might as
Imagine
well
you're a
be
Martian.
different.
They're different shapes, so they're different.
So even if I put like equal capital A, it will notice
Yeah,
that.
if you put lowercase a equal capital A, it'll say false.
Are we gonna do something about that later this class?
Not this class.
Not this class. Maybe you can show that as the example
Like
on
capital A, it
the
doesn't
Java.
count it. And just like
Yeah,
one.
that would be a good one since we talked about it.
It's lower, it counts both of it because
Yes.
If you're, this is just a random question. If you're a coder in like a different country, are there like different languages?
So
Learning
the-
English is basically a prerequisite.
So you like if
the
you have
programming
to learn
languages are the same, but sometimes they will alias things like the keywords.
Oh,
Like you might be able to translate new into whatever language you're writing in.
that's weird.
And all of your variables, you'll probably use common names. Like we use index because index is the English word, but that was a really bad one because I don't know how to translate index into another language.
Yeah, I think the thing is, they tend to just kind of adapt and learn English is my understanding. Like
That
I took
makes
a
it
computer
easier.
science class in Costa Rica, and like
Oh.
they
Oh.
just, it was funny because they didn't have that same intuitive understanding of what all these keywords mean.
Oh,
So they're basically just learning these symbols. Like
I mean,
for-
we're teaching you public static void main, and at the very beginning, you're just like, okay, those are keywords, and I'll
Whatever.
type them, and that's. I guess that's what they have to do.
But like
I thought they'd have
eventually you can
translated
develop
versions.
an intuition of like, you know, a string means like a string of characters or something, whereas to them it's
So
just
if you look
keyboard.
like that, then
so
Does
I was
anybody have a solution? That
so I was wondering
Yeah.
if it's in like
You wanna
no, it still isn't about this. But if it's like in an Asian language with like characters, they wouldn't be able to use those, right? Or would it just show up as like a box?
You can. Do you have an international keyboard on
No,
here?
not on this.
If you had one, you can actually type in and make your variable names Asian
Really?
characters, I think.
Wow.
That might only be
I'm gonna
in
go to
newer
Google
versions.
Translate.
But you can try it out.
That's
Some of
so
them will
weird.
transliterate as well,
Oh,
or
cool.
use numbers a lot. I think they use numbers for websites.
Oh.
What are you trying to do?
because that's really
Oh, you're gonna do it.
we go back whenever.
There's a close all, you know.
Oh, there was two.
Good to know.
So you would like
Uh,
just put all of them. Oh, I see.
Did you just break your computer?
No.
I've gone black screen.
I know that.
It can.
Would you like help?
I can make it.
How can it not be what your house
That's how you
come home talking to myself about how I can't get the door open or whatever.
Presenting here. Okay. So yeah, I have your workspace here on this side. So talk us through what each line does.
Okay, so line 16 basically just gets the like whatever you put as a word. So for example, Alabama, it would just be the word itself. Then line 17, integer word count assigned to 0. That basically means just like what Grace said, like you have a word count that's like starting with 0, and then like when you see A, you're gonna just keep adding to it. And then I use the same for loop, just like Julie said before. And then I added the word count plus because whenever you see an A, you just have to add 1 to word count. And then I print it out at the end.
Any questions about what she did here? So Alabama. They got
1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
Woo!
Woo! All right. Any questions about this code?
No.
Anything unusual? No? Okay. Let's move on. Okay. Whoops. That's not what I meant to click. Struggling here. Okay. So let's move on to a new method. What's that? That's gonna. What are we?
Apparently, I need to exit for yours to show up. There we go.
Okay. You guys can see this? Okay, so here's a new method. Well, not yet. It will be. So introducing the concept of substrings. A substring is just a portion of another string. So cat is a substring of concatenate. Hello is a substring of hello. The letter R is a substring of bear. So substrings don't have to be words. They're just any portion of the string, right?
This is from the Latin sub, which means under or less than, as opposed to super, which means more or greater or over.
Like subsets, right? So a substring is like a subset of a string. Okay, so can someone offer up another substring of concatenate than cat? Con.
Nate.
Nate.
10.
10. Good. Okay, you guys got this.
10.
So there's a method on strings called substring. So if I have a message, hello world, that's a string, then I can do message.substring, and it'll get a substring of hello world for me. And what it takes as input are a start index and an end index. So then it'll grab that particular substring. So this will start at 0 and end at 4. So this is exclusive. So if you were to go from 0 to message.length, you would get the whole thing because it doesn't include message.length. It goes up until the one before it. Does that make sense? It's a little bit weird, but it doesn't include this one. So this will go from 0 up to, but not including 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it would grab hello. So that is the substring method. So you can do all kinds of cool things with this. So let's try it out. If our string is penguin, and we do p dot substring 03, what does that get us? Pen? Do you guys agree? Pen, because it's 0, 1, 2. Cool. What about the next one? One Direction, and we go from 4 to 10.
Direct.
We've heard
One
one proposal is erect.
No, wait. Please no.
All right, let's count it out. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what is it?
Direct.
Direct. Good. And whoops.
Wait, can you recap it? Because that's basically
Okay. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we start here.
space.
Yeah,
Okay.
you count the space. So one thing we're finding here is that Java doesn't actually understand words in any fashion. It doesn't speak English. It doesn't speak any language. It just knows characters on the keyboard. So anything that you hit on the keyboard is a distinct thing. It doesn't know capital A from lowercase a. It doesn't know a letter from a period. It doesn't know a letter from a space. All of these things are just things you type in, and it just treats them all as arbitrary characters. Okay, so if I can, yeah.
How come you don't do the I?
It doesn't include, oh, this I?
Yeah.
Because the rule is it's just the way they designed it, that the this number is exclusive. And that means you don't include that index, you just go up to it. It's just the way they defined it. So you include this one, and then you go all the way up to, but not including that one. So yeah, you're right, the I is 10, but we don't count the 10, we just go to 9.
That's weird.
Okay, so what is the last substring? Yep, it's the letter D, because we do 3, and then we go up to, but not including 4, so it's just 3. So it's just the letter D.
What if it said 3, 3? Would it not count?
If it said 3, 3, it would actually return nothing.
Okay.
Because there's nothing between 3 and 3, right? Would it throw
an
an
empty string,
Oh.
It would return an empty string.
which is not quite nothing.
Well,
Pretty close.
we're not going to get into that, but yeah, it would return just quote, quote,
Aw.
nothing inside the string. Okay. So here's another fun method for you guys that's going to be useful, and it's called equals. And so you do A dot equals B, and it compares if those two strings are the same string. So if we have 3 strings, hello, A is hello, B is world, and C is hello. And then we have if A equals B, and then if A equals C, A and C are the same. So in this case, this one is going to return false because hello and world are not the same string. And this one is going to return true because hello and hello are the same string. So it'll print A and C are the same. And no, again, it doesn't speak English, so if we had uppercase hello and lowercase hello, it would return false because they're not the same string. So that's another useful method. Now you may be wondering, I'm getting there.
Okay.
Why didn't I use the equal equal? We use that on all the other comparisons, right? Well, unfortunately, you can't use equal equal on objects. You can only use it on primitives. So on our int and our double and our booleans and char, those are primitives, so you can use equal equal to compare them. But strings are objects, so if you're doing string or word pair or point, you have to use dot equals instead. It's just one of those implementation details, and they're conceptually exactly the same. It's just a rule that when you're using object, you have to do dot equals instead to compare them. Any questions about this? Yeah. So if you're using primitives, you have to use the equal equal. You can't do dot equals because primitives don't have methods. So that you would never, if you have an int, if A were an int, you would never do A dot anything because they don't have methods. This is one of the benefits of objects, is that you can have dot, substring, dot, equals, whatever. But it means that in exchange for that, we can't use equal equal on them. So primitives always use equal equal, objects always use dot equals. Does that answer your question? Any other questions? Okay. So, for example, does the second string start with the first string? So this is, if we wanted to solve this problem, where if we take ABC and ABC 1, 2, 3, the answer is yes, because ABC 1, 2, 3 starts with ABC. Right? It's a particular substring. It's a substring at the very beginning of it. So 1, 2, 3 ABC does not start with ABC. It's a substring, but it's not at the beginning. So we would say no. And then Alabama is not, or Alla friggin' Bama does not start with Alabama. Good? Okay, so that's the problem we're trying to solve here. So the first thing I'm going to do is take in the program args. So the first arg is the potential start. We don't know yet. And then the second arg is the whole thing. So we want to see if this part is the start of the whole. So here's how you would do it by using substring and equals. So the first thing we do is we check the substring from 0 to part.length. I'm seeing nods, so that's good. So for example, if we take our example of ABC and ABC 1, 2, 3, ABC is part and ABC 1, 2, 3 is whole. So part.length, ABC, is 3. So then we take the substring from 0 to 3 of ABC 1, 2, 3. Should I be writing this out? Or are we good? We're good? So I take the substring from 0 to 3 of ABC 1, 2, 3, and I get ABC. So now start of whole is ABC. And then I check if start of whole equals part. So I check if ABC equals ABC, and I get yes. Now suppose I'm talking about 1, 2, 3 ABC instead, so it's not the start of it. Then when I come here, I would go hold that substring from 0 to 3, and I would get 1, 2, 3, because those are the first 3 numbers. This will help that Jeff is writing it out. So part is ABC, and whole is 1, 2, 3 ABC. Our length of part is 3, so that's part.length is 3. Our substring from 0 to 3 is 0, 1, 2, and we get 1, 2, 3. And then we say if 1, 2, 3 equals ABC, which it doesn't, so then we print now. Good with this? Okay, so that's an example of using substring and equals together to solve a problem. So suppose that you forgot that substring existed. There is an alternate way to do this. The alternate way to do this would be just like we did at the beginning of class, as we all get distracted by the tipping of trash cans. So the alternate way without using substring would be just like we were doing earlier in class, loop over every character. So we have an ABC that you're looking for, and you would check, is the first one equal to A? Is the second one equal to B? Is the third one equal to C, right? So you could do that, and then you're just using a loop, and you're using char at, and you're comparing characters, so you use equal equal, right? But as you'll notice here, it's a lot more complicated, right? This is a lot more confusing to follow because you're doing this loop, and then you have to get the char at in each spot. You got to make sure you loop the right number of times, and then you have to do the yes at the bottom, but the no up here, because if you ever fail, right, then you say no. If you're looking for ABC, but you get A, D, C. You might pass the first time, but not pass another time. So the point is it's complicated, right? So substring makes your life a lot easier. You don't need it. You can do things without substring, but it'll simplify things. So when you can, I recommend using it. That's the gist. If you don't follow this, it's okay. If you do follow it, that's great. Now here's another alternative, is if you happen to know about this other magic method that happens to be called starts with, then the whole problem is solved for you. Because there's a method of, you can say whole dot starts with part, and it'll just return whether or not whole starts with part, right?
Wow.
And you're like, oh, why didn't you tell me about that at the start? Well, substring and equals are really useful in general. And it's hard to memorize all of string's methods. And so sometimes you'll happen to know about this super awesome useful method, and sometimes you just work with what you've got, and it's a little more complicated, but at least you know how to do it. So there is a way to find more methods. And you can all try this right now. So the people who wrote Java, Oracle, they have listed all of strings methods online. And they do this for all of the objects that they provide. So you could do the same thing for point. And so all you gotta do is Google search Java string and click on the first link. It should say Java Platform SE7. And I'm gonna do this with you.
By the way, Java Platform SE7 are the magic words to look for. That means you're in the right place.
It also says Oracle documentation on it, so then you know it's the official stuff from Oracle. Okay, so this is where they officially document what is in the string object. And they put this available online for people to use. So here's an example of using string. Here's the stupid example of creating a character array first and then doing new string. Here's an example of like normal creating a string. And then down here, we have some stuff, some complicated stuff, and then we have the method summary. This is a complete list of strings methods, all of them.
Oh my
It's
God.
kind of scary. That's why I didn't just send you here from the start. I'm introducing you to the important ones. Most of these you can ignore. Most of them I don't use. They're more obscure things that not everybody needs. So I'm going to draw your attention to the important ones like charact and length and substring and equals. These are all the most important ones. But if you ever were wondering, like, is there a starts with that just figures out if something starts with? Like, what about ends with? Just ends with exist? Then you can scan here and see, oh, there is an ends with. So you could do ends with too, right? And there's a bunch of other ones that are.
Stop.
What?
Go up about 5 rows. Or I don't know where you are anymore.
Here's ends with.
Go down 2 rows.
Oh. Equals?
Equals ignore case.
Equals
You're
ignore case.
scrolling instead of
Yeah.
moving around.
Sorry. So yeah, so if you were wondering, I want to compare these two things and have capital Alabama be the same thing as lowercase Alabama, then you can, instead of calling equals, call equals ignore case. And it'll ignore whether things are upper or lowercase. Ooh. Yeah, so if you're ever hanging out wondering, like, I don't recommend trying to memorize all of these methods, but if you're ever hanging out wondering, like, I wonder if it'll check this thing for me, right? This is a good place to go. And you can just scan the list, they're alphabetical, and try and look for the one. And you'll notice these just look like function declarations. So this is the return value over here. This is the name of the method. And then it gives you the input that it takes. So for example, ends with returns a Boolean, yes or no. It's called ends with, and takes as input the string that would be the suffix. And it tests if the string ends with that suffix. So it gives a little description. And if you want the full details, you can click on the method name, and it'll give you the whole rundown on it. So again, most of these aren't going to mean anything to you, but it's a place that you can browse for stuff. And we might specifically use it as a reference sometimes, like say, go look up here. We don't have a lot of time, but let's take a quick break. I want to give you a break today.
She's been wanting to pee. The way you said it. You wanna bring me back like a water? Twice.
Well, I didn't hit myself.
You wanna bring me water, please?
There were like little straps.
I don't wanna get it. Does everyone actually go to the bathroom?
I stay here.
Same.
I agree.
See ya.
So you can't have nice
Currently, it's close to desk too.
Oh my god. Thank you. So young. Thank you. Thank you. Mango grapefruit water.
So who those guys were. they were super interested in our class. Okay, so we just talked about methods and how to find all of strings methods. So try it out. I hope you still have that page open. We have a method in here called replace. Go look up what it does and tell me what this code prints. You can probably guess, but you can also look it up.
You should look it up anyway to get used to reading it.
Yeah, this is one of those where like it may seem like it's obvious, but it's a good exercise to look things up.
Is it possible to replace something with nothing?
Yes.
Like, what do you write then? Do you just write
Oh,
a
wait.
blank?
But it takes a character.
So can you do a space?
You could replace it with a space character.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know if you could totally delete it because that would. Is it possible to replace like the character F with just nothing? Like delete all the F's?
Yes, let it.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
is there a method?
Because I was thinking, yeah, go look for
Dang it! Delete.
Because there is no such thing as the empty character. There's the space character,
Oh.
but there's no character that just contains nothing.
So there is such a thing.
But there is an empty string. So if you find something that takes a string as input, then it'll work. Okay. So what does this print? Lame.
Wait,
Lame.
So it replaces the lame.
oh.
It replaces-
No, I don't know why instead
She,
of
like-
actually seeing the F, I saw an A, so I was like, wait, lame. It should be like flip. Like
Flame.
I don't know.
So everybody's good now with replace? Okay. So really looking up the methods is going to be most useful when you come across a piece of code that you don't recognize. You're like, oh, let me go look up what that means. So please, I already said this, but don't try to like study these and memorize them all. You only need a few of them. In particular, length, char, equals, and substring. You're going to be using all the time. So get super comfortable with those. And then sometimes something like starts with will be useful or ends with. And if you used substring instead, it's not that big of a deal. It turns into 4 lines of code instead of 1. Okay, so let's try it out. Extract the first word from a sentence. So, for example, my name is Julie would be my, bears are great would be bears, let's go would be let's, right? So just conceptually, how would you determine what the first word is?
Maybe you can index 0. I like the first word by calling it 0 and then just minus. I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe. So the key thing here is you want to utilize space, right? Because you want everything that comes before the first space, right? So that's the concept. And there's actually 3 possible solutions for this. So you're going to have to use the string methods. Okay. You can use index of, which look up what it is, along with substring. You could just do the basics and do char and length. That's the one that involves looping, right? Just like our last example where you just kind of loop over. So you can search for the space. Or you could do the fancy solution, which uses the split method. So go ahead and look them up and think about which one you would like to use. If you can't decide, just go for the first one. And make sure you write your algorithm in your code first, and then write the code. And group up and let me know if you have any questions.
Cry. Does this mean space can be one of the rejects?
Yes, though you might be more interested in.
Oh, there's two.
Oh, really? Is it not here? I swear it's.
There's a
okay.
split and another split. There's two.
I thought there were 3 splits.
Oh, I only saw two.
Yes. So the short answer is regular expressions
Oh.
are a quote special language, but most of the time, see they've got boo and foo. If
There's
they
no
split on
space.
colon, it just takes the colons out
Mhm.
and splits them. Unless it is quote special. That's what it does. Space is not special, so space will just act like a string here, and it will take out all the spaces and then partition it on either side.
Mm. Okay,
Does that make sense?
thank you.
If you haven't yet decided which of the 3 you're doing, it's time to just pick and go for it. And if you can't decide, I recommend number 1. Not that there's anything wrong with the others. This is just me making a decision for you. Just a straw poll. How many people are going for solution 1? Kind of. Okay. 2. 3. 1. Cool. Good. We got a good diverse. So if you guys are doing solution 1, you want to use index of to get the index of 1. Does anyone figure that out? With the space, right? You want to go all the way up until the space. So you use index of to get the index of the space, and then use substring to get everything up to that index. Does that make sense? So it's 2 lines of code. It might be more to get like the args and stuff, but it's 2 methods. So before we run out of time, let's have you present.
Right.
Anyone successfully get a solution? Okay, that's fine. We'll show it to you, and then you guys can finish it up on your own. Okay, so this is option number 1.
Is that big enough? That probably needs to be bigger.
Okay, so this is option number 1 using index of and substring. This is good. So the first thing you do is you get the index of the space, right? So this is the space character. And index of returns the index of the first time that it appears. So it'll go through looking for it. It finds it here, and what's it return? What's the index here? Yeah, what's the index there? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The index of space returns 4 in this case, right? If we had a different word, like A as our first word, then the index of space would return 1. Right? If we had bear, well, that's a 4-letter word too. But right, it's whatever index comes after that. Then when you call substring on that index, it gets from 0 up to, but not including it. So it gets everything up to, but not including the space. So that's how we get the first word. Are there any questions about this? So this is all about getting comfortable. We're going to share these solutions with you, so you don't have to write it down right now.
Yeah, so you did you did 0 then first space index because like once you go to the first space you would go back, which would give you like the first.
So remember, substring just gets the portion of the string from the start index to the end index. What we want in this case is the first word. So we want everything from 0 up to the space.
I see. Oh, okay.
So first you use this to get the index right here, and then you use substring to get from here to here.
Can't you just do like 0 and then class?
So you could do 0 and then, well, it would be 4 because 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But you could do 0 and then 4 if you know that the first word is always going to be this, right? But if we wanted to make our, but if we wanted to make our function work for any string, then we have to use the index of.
Is that an actual word?
Yes. Well, so in this case, it's only getting the first word anyway, so it doesn't really matter how long the sentence goes.
So like if you want to do another sentence, like if you have
Oh, another variable?
Yeah.
So then you would just have to change the variable name here. Or you could repeat your code, right? So this is doing sentence.index of and sentence.substring. So it's taking this variable and getting the index of the substring. But if you wanted to do it for another variable, then you would just write the other variable name instead. Good question. Yeah.
Is it possible to do the args thing for a sentence? Because
Yes. That would be the way to go, is to make it be arg0, right? Because then you could just pass in any sentence and it would figure out, oh,
because
yeah, that's why we did it this way. So when it parses the program args, it always grabs it word by word. So the way you actually have it take the whole sentence instead of word by word is you put it in quotes.
Oh.
And now arg0 is everything inside those quotes instead of just grabbing it word by word. Because otherwise it would be arg0, args1, args2, args3. Yeah. Good question. Any other questions about?
Happy question.
So, are you showing him the whole sentence?
Did you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, I do.
We're struggling here, it looks like.
Oh, fun 9. It struggles sometimes. Well, there we go. So if you don't put it in quotes, it just grabs the first
No,
word.
this was,
Oh,
it just hadn't recompiled yet.
there we go.
Oh.
So you put it in quotes. And then the second line is actually his code, which grabbed the first word out of it. So,
If I don't put it in quotes,
yeah, what it's
If.
doing behind the scenes is split, which you might have looked up. It splits it over the. Okay, so next solution, using Kara and length. This one is a lot more complicated. So this is the cost you pay for using the more simple methods. But the concept here, this one you would really need to write an algorithm for. But the concept is it loops over all of the indices of the sentence, right? And then it grabs the character, checks if the character is a space. So it's searching for the index of space right now, right? And when it gets to the space, where did first word come from?
here.
Oh,
Let me reverse these.
That would be really helpful, thank you. I'm gonna have to move the return as well.
I know, I'm getting there.
It's okay. Okay, so if the character is not the space, then it starts accumulating the word it's found so far. So it has first word that starts as empty, and it adds each character that's not a space. And then when it finally gets to a space, it skips to here, prints out, and ends. If you don't follow this, that's okay. It's a lot more complicated. You can go back and read this later. I recommend going back and reading it later and making sure, or trying to make sense of how it goes through it all. This works. It's just, the other one was 2 lines, index of and substring. And this one you have to loop over each character, which is just a lot more effort. And then the last one, if you want to be fancy and use split, is so the split method will split a sentence over a particular character. So if you give it as input, for example, a comma, then it'll break it up based on everything before a comma, after the next comma. So in this case, it breaks it over a space. So it'll get you, this is a pretty interesting, so that's what your program args does when it reads it in. It just breaks it up based on all the spaces. And then you just want the first word. So it's an array and you grab index 0. So split is a little harder to understand what it's doing, which is why it's harder to use. But once you get there, you only have to do one method call. So these are all trade-offs and you have to choose what you prefer best. I think the index of and the substring is the easiest one to read in this case. So I'd recommend that one for this solution, but it'll vary based on what problem you're trying to solve. So I recommend just reviewing all 3 solutions later because it's good to understand them all. But obviously, if you're writing code, you only have to be able to come up with one of them. Okay, so we're out of time. But this week, in addition to our regular lab and assignment, which you will work on tomorrow, we have a string count challenge. So one of the problems you did was counting the letter A. That's actually the first step in the string count challenge. And I decided to give prizes for it. This is just because it's a fun little set of activities that kind of build off of each other. So don't sacrifice your work on the lab or assignment for this. But if you have any free time before Saturday at 11:59, I recommend attempting to solve these. If you solve one of them, I believe the prize is candy. If you solve 2 of them, the prize is candy and chocolate. If you solve 3, the prize is candy, chocolate, and gum. If you solve 4, the prize is candy, chocolate, gum, and a baked good. If you solve all 5 of them, you get candy, chocolate, gum, a baked good, and a small piece of Google Swag. Okay.
Do you have to do it like by yourself or can you like?
I didn't think about that.
How much are you willing to give?
Okay, you can do it in groups of 2. You can't like all work together as a class. But yes, you may do it in groups of 2, yes.
Will you be making the baked good?
Probably.
Whoa! Okay.
I don't know what it's gonna be, but I will probably just,
Yeah.
well, I don't want to promise it. And it's probably homemade baked good. If I run out of time, I'll like go to Starbucks and buy a muffin. But the deadline really is Saturday night because like if I'm making baked goods or acquiring Google Swag, I need a couple days before Monday's class to acquire these things. Before, I don't know yet. I have to decide. Before Sunday's class.
Sunday.
Before Sunday's class.
Confused.
So nobody here other than you 2 has a conflict on either day, right? You have a conflict Tuesday and you have a conflict Monday, right? Okay. I'm gonna ask the people who were not here today to see if I can break the tie. And if not, we will default to Monday because that's when we normally have class. And that would be the non-change. So that's the plan. Hard to reconcile people's schedules. So whenever we see you, I will post on Piazza either way, whether it's Monday or Tuesday to verify.